General Conrad Sturm was considered a man of even temper, but those that knew him well could see the rage burning in his blue-gray eyes. His forces had been set upon by the men of Bretonnia, and he was determined to enact retribution for it. But General Sturm possessed great tactical acumen, and looked for the perfect place to attack that would inflict true harm on the Bretonians' building military strength. And there was only one location that would fit: the training grounds at Belfort. So General Sturm summoned the most elite troops under his command and made plans to travel to Belfort. Much to his surprise, he was approached by a pair of witch hunters, who spoke to him of demonic activities that they said were occurring at the training facility, and declared that they were to join him. The general was surprised to hear this, but if true, would perhaps explain the Bretonians' actions against him. So General Sturm's forces made their way quickly through the mountain passes, determined to unleash hell upon the treacherous Bretonians and demand answers for their conduct. And so here we have the training grounds at Belfort. My Empire force is arrayed here at the bottom. Nothing too particular to note about the terrain. It's all pretty standard, with the exception of the tower in the center is a wizard's tower, and that does come to play a little bit. So let's go ahead and get into the deployment and get this report underway. So on the Bretonians' left flank, you have the large unit of knight errants. Looks like there's 13 or 12 there with a prophet, or not a prophetess, a damsel, level 2 of the lady to lore of life. Next to that is a unit of yeoman archers, or peasant archers, whatever they're called. There's 16 or 17 of them in that unit. Then in his back, he has 2 trebuchets. In between them is his Bretonnian lord on a Pegasus. I believe he's a Killing Blow lord. I'm not 100% on that. Up in front of that is a unit of 3 Pegasus knights and another unit of 16 or so archers. Then we have another unit of 12 Knights of the Realm with his Paladin BSB in that unit. And then the far unit is another 12 Errant Knights, and I believe he has a level 4 Prophetess Lore of Heavens in that bus. I don't remember exactly which one the Prophetess is in. The Prophetess is in one of those 2 buses, but she is a level 4 to the Lore of Heavens. I am certain of that. And my layout's pretty simple. Starting on my left, I have a captain on Pegasus who is my BSB. In the back, I have a great cannon. My general is on the Griffin. He has, like the Ogre Blade, he's basically built to cut through some armor. Then I have a unit of 20 swordsmen in the red and blue there. On their right, they have a 7-man handgunner detachment, and on their left, they have a 10-man archer detachment. In the unit is my level 4 to the Lore of Beasts, as well as both of the Witch Hunters. One has the Obsidian Blade on him, and the other one, I don't even think the other one has any gear, but they've got the shooting, the killing blow, and I named his Pegasus, his Lord on the Pegasus, as my target that they can do the shooting, killing blow on. So my whole point is to go ahead and kill him, reduce the amount that he can make use of that leadership bubble. Then on this side, we have a unit of 10 Inner Circle Knights. In with them is my Warrior Priest on horse with no other gear. Then I have a unit of 3 Demigryph Knights and a Steam Tank on the far side. Figure as much of them as I saw at the tournament lately, I might as well give a try and see how they actually work for me when I use them more often, or perhaps even better than I used them up to this point. So we'll see how that works. And then over here, this is after my first turn movement because I forgot to take a picture of it. I have Pistoliers on this side, and so I did get first turn because these Bretonnians, or no, this is my Vanguard. I'm sorry, this is my Vanguard for where they end up, because I think Bretonnia actually gets first turn because we're playing that they're evil Bretonnians and they don't have to pray. Yes, they do. So Bretonnia gets turn 1, and first thing he does is fly these Pegasi over here to get in the way of my fast calves, so they're not going to get into anything too meaty. But you know what? I'll take shots at Pegasus Knights. They're better points than I'd get out of the the knights probably, because they do have a slightly lower armor. Then over here, the knights errant come on very aggressively. No huge surprise there. My lines aren't really the strongest on this side of the board, so I think he wants to get in there and bust up some guys and go ahead and cause some trouble. And his archers, instead of coming forward, turn around to try and put some shots into those pistoliers and go ahead and take care of them. Then on this side, he does come up, but not nearly as crazily as he could. He's very afraid of the steam tank and the demigryphs getting into him. You can also see from the wings hiding behind the building there, his Pegasus Lord did fly over and hide behind the building. He's very afraid of the steam cannon, or the steam tank cannon, and my other cannon making short work of him. So he's going to be playing hide and go seek with me for a little while to try and stay out of firing range. So we go into his magic phase. I think the only thing he gets off is Ice Shard Blizzard. That sounds right on these knights. I'm not super concerned about that at this point. I think mainly he was looking for the leadership debuff and maybe get the opportunity to drop some rocks on my head, maybe force a panic. And speaking of dropping rocks, the first trebuchet shot of the game is dead on the head of my general. My general fails his ward save and is crushed to death. The Griffin is not wounded, so the Griffin is there. I knocked him over just to remind myself here, but the Griffin is running around on his own. He did succeed his leadership for the monster reaction test, so he's up and around, but I have no general at this point, and it's top of turn 1. So his other trebuchet went off, so it's my turn. I go ahead and fly my Pegasus captain right over here, basically in between everybody, but it gives me some targets for my next charge. Then over here, I remind my opponent why fast cav are awesome, and they run circles around the Pegasi, and end up behind everybody, basically being able to shoot whoever they darn well please. And over here, I move up my archers basically to tempt the knight errants into a charge. I really don't want them hitting my my swordsman unit with the characters in it, so I figure maybe if I move the archers up farther, he'll go for the easy bait and not have to, or rather not risk coming after my bigger unit that has characters in it. Because we are playing closed lists, he doesn't really know what's there, but it's not anything that would stand up to that. So over here, I'm being very conservative. I don't want to offer any easy charges to the lance on the left. Learn to speak. It would be great. But I do go ahead and just run the steam tank right up here. I think I still have one more steam point to try and fire a cannon down its line. But ideally, I want those knight errants to be held up by the steam tank. And over here, I get Curse of Honor here off on these knights, and I love this spell against the Bretonnians here, as my opponent is just absolutely god-awful at rolling dangerous terrain tests. So anytime I can force him to do it on 1s and 2s, half the battle's already there for me, so I was super happy that I got this off. He tried to counter it, but I just got too high. Over here, I shoot the cannon down. I believe I take off 2 of the knights, but I think I took this picture after he scooped them up. And then this cannon misfires and cannot shoot this turn or the next, which is frankly about par for my cannons. It's actually a little better than they usually do. I usually am really, really good at blowing them up, so it's nice to know I didn't immediately gift him any additional points. Then in my last little bit of shooting, the Pistoliers decide to go ahead and shoot... Or no, these weren't the Pistoliers. These were between the archers and the handgunners I have in front. Between the two groups, I end up killing 1 knight. That's what it looks like. So we go into Bretonnia turn... This is 2, I guess. And this knight of the Realm Lance just comes screaming right into my knight group. This is bad news. My only hope is that I can... My armor works, or that I can hold out because there's a lot of attacks coming down on me here. And over here, he charges the archers, and you can see half of the unit basically disappeared. Just under half of the unit disappeared from dangerous terrain tests. He's only got actually 3 ranks and 1 dude in this unit. He's still probably going to trash these archers, but I'm making him take so many dangerous terrain tests. Even if he totally destroys them, I'm much better off in points there. And then here he decides to go ahead and charge the steam tank. Not sure if I would have made that decision, but the point he made was at least this way he gets a bunch of strength 5 attacks, which is about the best he can manage at this point. And if he can go ahead and get the attacks down the lance, then he runs a better chance of doing some wounds to the steam tank. So I can kind of understand that. Over here, the Pegasus and the archers, or the Pegasus Lord and the archers come up. Now, what my opponent didn't realize here is at the point he is now, he's hidden from my witch hunters. But I've actually got about 3 inches that they can come up to that wall, and once they move up to that point, they'll be able to see him. So that's my plan. I'm very happy he moved there, because I'm going to go hug that wall and try and shoot him in the forehead. So over here, he moves his Pegasus Knights behind my Pistoliers, and again, not entirely sure why, because if I want to, I can just kind of run circles around them, but I think he was thinking he was trying to like herd me towards the center of the board, but I'm not entirely sure of his thinking in that line. Then here, my opponent tries to Swift Reform to expand his ranks to get more shots in, and I think this is the turn that he fails his Swift Reform check, so he gets to reform, but he's not going to be able to shoot at all. So with nothing else really of note going on, we go into combat. These knights just absolutely are incapable of getting through that 1-up armor save the steam tank has. So he throws quite a few attacks, but I mean I'm still only making 3-up armor saves, and he gets nothing through on the steam tank. Then over here, the knights absolutely whiff. They only kill 4 of the archers. I don't do anything back, but I break and I run. He pursues and doesn't catch me, doesn't roll far enough, but ends up losing another 5 knights to the dangerous terrain tests because he's failing them on 1s and 2s. It's just a bad scene, but he doesn't panic at that point. And then over here, again, the knights don't do great. I kill, I think, 3 of his knights to 2 of mine. But he's got more static combat res than I do, so I break because I don't have a general anymore, and stop within centimeters of the edge of the board, and my opponent chooses not to pursue, which I think was a terrible idea. And unfortunately, because of where the terrain is, he can't really reform anywhere, so this happens. On my turn, because he couldn't reform and he didn't pursue, which was just, I mean, both of us at the end of the game realized that was the wrong decision. I send my Griffin in and the Demigriffs. And actually, before the Griffin goes in, he tries to charge the Pegasus, or the Knights that have Curse of Honor here on them. They fail their panic check, go running off and take some more wounds, and then he redirects over here. So, then I do the same thing with the Pistoliers. I charge the Knights that are fleeing just to make them make more panic checks. I think they're or more fleas and dangerous terrain. I think they're only down to 2 guys now. But they get far enough away that I make a big mistake, and rather than just letting the Pistoliers fail that charge, I redirect into the Peasants. And this was just stupid. There was absolutely no reason to do this. And I think I was just getting a little overzealous with the way things are going. And yeah, here's where the guys end up after all of the charging. They kind of get ping-ponged all over the board. And they're still fleeing, and there's only 2 of them left. So, the Champion and the Standard Bearer. So, I'm pretty happy with that. He's needing double 1s to rally, and he doesn't have that far to go to the end of the board. So, I'm thinking those guys are pretty much done. And then during shooting, I am on my game. The Witch Hunters with their braces of pistols open up. on the Pegasus Lord and take him out. Oh, and I forgot to say this earlier. My Pegasus captain charged one trebuchet, so we go to combat. I kill it. Overrun. Don't quite make it to the next one, but yeah, I'm pretty easily going to take that out. Last turn, I didn't mention his shooting because one drifted way off and the other one misfired and couldn't go this turn, so that's why it's turned sideways. Then in this combat, we see while I was stupid to bring the Pistoliers in, I kill 3 peasant archers, and they butcher me back. It was really kind of stupid, but they were just throwing so many attacks, even with needing 4s to hit and 4s to wound. He did enough to get through and take out the whole unit, so kudos for him. And then over here, the grinding begins. I take out 2 Knights of the Realm. He puts a couple of wounds, maybe only 1 wound on the Griffin. Nothing on the Demigriffs. I believe we actually end up pushing here, because he's still got decent static combat res, and I didn't do a whole lot to him, and he kind of equaled that out. So I think we push, and obviously no one has to break in that circumstance. And over here, the steam tank is just screwing around. I think I grind 1 guy during the movement phase. I was really rolling just terribly for those grind attacks. But of course, now that he's strength 3, he's needing 6s to wound, and then I've got a 1-up armor save. That steam tank is absolutely going to hold up that unit the entire freaking game, and we both know it. So over here, what happens? Oh, I think these peasants panicked when I killed the Lord, and I didn't take a picture of it till here. See, I killed the Lord. These guys were within 6. They panic. They turn and they run, and this is actually the top of his next turn where they continue to flee, and they've almost reached my Pegasus Knight at the back end of the board at this point. And these fellows fail to rally and run very few. I think it's 7 or 8 inches. I need them to roll higher to get the hell off the board. But yeah, I'm still thinking, I mean, double 1s, they're not going to come back. And over here, his Pegasus Knights are trying to chase down my Pegasus Captain. And he wants to get to a point where he can get to, like, he can do an easy charge, but if I turn around, like if I kill the Pegasus, or the Trebuchet and turn around, that I can't charge back at him. I think that was what we were trying to do. So in combat over here, his BSB finally takes out my Griffin, which is definitely good for him. I think I kill 1 more Knight. He ends up winning this fight. Or no, I win the fight, but don't break. And then I think he fails to be able to reform. That sounds familiar. And with this picture, I absolutely proved that I cannot remember any game I ever play in, because this does show the reform. He goes basically 5 wide with his knights, so he can get in as many attacks as he can, and bring his BSB into combat. He wants to do as much damage as he can. The plus side to me is, if you've noticed at the bottom, my knights have rallied, so they've got a flank charge. Those handgunners who are sitting there doing nothing are going to go into the rear. And as you can see, I succeed on all those charges at the top of my turn. So I'm pretty sure, unless I can do just a lot of damage before he gets to go with the Demigriffs, those handgunners are probably going to get killed, and it's probably bleeding more combat res than it's really giving me. But again, I think after the tournament, when I was focusing so much on trying to play my best, I was letting a lot of things slip during this game. I also charged my Pegasus Knight into his Trebuchet, which, I mean, he's only got 3 more peasants on that thing because of the misfire, so I'm not all that concerned with that fight. So I think this is a picture of my shooting phase. I try to bounce a cannon ball down that line now that I can shoot again, and it looks like I just did some damage to the peasants and missed the Pegasus Knights, so I don't remember, but that one cannon on that side really was lackluster, as most of my cannons end up being, so I didn't really pay a whole lot of attention to it. It ultimately didn't matter in this game one whit. So in combat, obviously, the captain on the Pegasus finishes the trebuchet off and turns around to face the other Pegasus Knights who are trying to chase him down. And then over here during combat, my poor opponent just was not rolling well at all. I end up with the knights that charged in with the hatred. I was hitting like a boss, pretty much annihilated them. He didn't even really have that many attacks to throw back at the handgunners to get him any more combat res, so he lost bad, needed double ones, rerollable, failed it, and got ran down. So we go into Bretonnia's turn, and he fails to rally the peasants again. They continue to run, but don't make it to the board edge. And his Pegasus guys charge into my Pegasus guy, and I'm still feeling pretty good about my guy. He's pretty strong. I think I got a strength buff sword on him or something. And I know I can get the challenge out because he's not going to want to refuse and lose his Blessing of the Lady. Over here, he has failed to rally again and stops like 3 inches from the edge of the table, which is awesome because that's going to give him one more turn to run off the table, and I'll get those points. So with nothing of worth left to him, we get into a challenge. He does nothing to me. I do a single wound to him, and we bounce because we've both got banners and wounds and whatever, but nobody goes anywhere there. Then we go to my turn, and at this point, I'm just moving on up. I want to pressure anything. He's still got those archers on the side, but they really haven't had any good targets because I've been keeping everything far away and pointed in the wrong direction. But I just move everybody on this side of the board just in case his Knight Errants get crazy and take out that steam tank, which is not terribly likely to happen. I left the handgunners there in case that does happen. They'll open fire, but I'm not concerned about it. Over here I get my grind on, and I've brought that unit down to, I think it's 7 knights at this point. But again, I'm probably not going to pick up the points there because I'm just not doing enough grind attacks, and there's no way he's getting through the steam tank. There's just too much armor. Then I move my archers over here who had rallied. Just in case he rolls like 3 ones and doesn't go off the board next turn, I'll be able to charge him and get him off there, because they're really not doing much anything else. So then over here, my Pegasus captain kills his Pegasus champion, and they break. He loses the banner from it, and I don't catch him. In fact, I basically bounce off this fleeing unit of peasants, and his Pegasus Knight just hangs out there all by his lonesome. So then we go to Bretonnia turn 6, and his peasants rally and turn around to stare at the his peasants rally and turn around to stare at the Pegasus that almost ran them over. And much to my chagrin, these 2 freaking knights rally at the corner of the table, so I'm not getting points for any of this unit. I've got bottom of 6 to get rid of them, and not much to do it because I was spreading my stuff out just to run across the table. I was like, no! I wanted to hit my head against the freaking table at this point. But it was funny. My opponent deserved it. He had such bad luck. So we go into 6. I charge over his peasants into the Pegasus Knight who did not flee, or who did not rally. He flees a little more, but I roll like a boss and run him down. Then over here, my knights decide to go into the flank of the peasants, hoping that maybe I could hit them hard enough to cause them to panic, get a few more points. But really, I'm just kind of messing around over here at this point. And then during magic and shooting, I open up with everything I've got over here. Cannon, magic missiles, shooting from the archers, and I kill one of the 2 knights, and he doesn't panic. So the champion of that unit remains at the end of the game, completely undefeated by everything that the Empire can bring forth. And over here, needless to say, the peasants do not stand well against a full charge of Imperial Knights. He is stubborn, because I didn't delete that many of them. But he lost the combat bad and was rolling on what is peasant leadership 6, something like that. So he flees and runs off the table, and I collect those points. Rene Lemire spurred his horse on. He had watched his unit obliterated by the magic of the Empire wizards, and the terrain in front and behind them. He looked behind him as the last of the winged knights fell and spurred his horse faster. Belfort had fallen to the Empire, and he must tell his king of the incursion into Bretonnian soil. It was a few hours into his ride when he stopped beside a small stream to rest and refresh his mount. As he began to make preparations to continue his ride, something moved in the small copse of trees to the west. As Rene grabbed his sword, thinking it was beastmen or perhaps Empire scouts, the sight he saw caused him to drop his weapon and fall to his knees. Coming forth from the forest was the glowing green form of the fabled Green Knight, who had seemed to have abandoned Bretonnia months ago. While he pointed to Rene, beckoning him to follow. The young knight-errant leapt to his horse and began to follow the ghostly form into the forest. As Rene entered, he was not struck by the limbs of the trees as he thought he might, but was struck as if by wisps of smoke that had taken the forms of trees and bushes. Still, the errant knight spurred his mount for what seemed like hours. As the smoke finally cleared, he emerged just outside of a Bretonnian camp, but not one that was loyal to his king. The Green Knight pointed at the banner of Cartagia that billowed in the wind, and then turned, returning to the forest, leaving the young knight enthralled, speechless, and more than a little confused, as he stared at a camp full of renegade knights, men of the Empire, and a full contingent of ogres. So, we certainly have a pretty major victory for the Empire here, in the first strikes against the corrupted Bretonnian forces, claiming the throne of that great land. With the training grounds at Belfort fallen, the united forces of the Empire, the ogres, and Cartagia's men have a chance to break through. So, definitely in terms of the narrative, this was a great victory, and is definitely, I'm looking forward to how things are gearing up to that ultimate conclusion to see if the throne of Bretonnia can in fact be cleansed. We'll have to see. As far as tactically goes, I think I was mostly happy with the end results, but I feel like I played the game very sloppy in a few key areas. Throwing away my Pistoliers was definitely just terrible. Moving up those units basically just to move them up so I didn't have them where they could bring to bear on the rallying knights was kind of, again, just a sloppy move. But I haven't played Empire in a while, so I'm kind of excusing myself for that. I do think that the game really came down to my opponent's decision not to overrun into the knights when he first defeated them. There was really no tactical reason not to, since he couldn't really reform in the way he wanted to get my demigryphs out of his way. He was probably better off just running over and hitting them just to collect the points. He still probably would have taken a flank charge, because there really wasn't much room for him to get away from it with as long as that unit was. But at least he would have gotten something from it, and wouldn't have been in the situation that he was. And if he had killed the knights, they were really what caused him to break when they countercharged after they rallied anyway. So I definitely think that was the biggest turning point of the game. Other than that, this is the first time my Bretonnian opponent has played in like 6 or 7 weeks, so he might be a little rusty. Can't really hold that against him. All in all, it was a fun game. I hope you guys enjoyed watching it. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comments below, and I'll get to them as soon as I can. But other than that, thanks for watching. We'll catch you next time.